It was close to $20,000 that they scammed me out of. So that ate up all my startup costs. I took a personal loan to start up everything. They scammed me and pretty much didn't help me at all.
The way your facilities is set up, it's basically a single family house that's converted.
So I leased it out for $2,800 a month. I knew with 4 bedrooms, I could get it licensed for 5 beds.
You're renting out 5 beds basically, right? And your lease is $2,800, but how much are you getting per bed?
So I was, bringing in anywhere from 15 to 18K a month. My lease was $2,800. Well, my name is Serge Lupescu, and I started my entrepreneur journey at 22 years old. So
And you're how old now?
I'm 30.
Okay.
So I've been doing this, what I do now, pretty much for 8 years. So went to nursing school. That's kind of where, everything kind of started for me. Pretty much went to nursing school just more so because I was like, look, this is a safe path. I was on the path to go become a CRNA. So I was working through that process.
I have some clients that are CRNAs. So
yeah.
Nurse anesthesiology. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of working through that. And as I was in nursing school and as I was working in the ICU, because I got into the ICU very young. I was 18 years old when I got into the ICU because I was, trying to get my foot in the door. I knew I would need that experience as I applied for CRNA school, having ICU experience. And I knew going into nursing school, if I was already in the ICU, I could get a job a lot easier, which was the case. And so as I was finishing up nursing school, man, I just realized I just did not really have the desire to continue in the medical field or really be a nurse and so on and so forth.
There's really good money in that.
Oh, of course.
So
yeah.
And I have some clients that are making 300,000+ a year.
Yeah, you start off
CRNAs,
like easily, 200K, depending on where you go. But it would require a lot more schooling. Right. And so me graduating at 22 as a nurse, and I already had a job in the ICU that I was working. I was verbally committed there. I just knew deep down, dude, that was not the path I wanted to go on. And so I was like, well, I just worked this hard to get my nursing degree and, start working up the ranks. But like, what am I going to do with this degree? Like, what am I going to do? And so one night I was just talking with one of my work colleagues. He was a nurse and he goes, dude, why don't you just go start an assisted living home? Yeah, right, dude. I'm not going to go do that. And I just kept digging into it, and it just come to find out like my aunt had been doing it forever. It just isn't a sexy business that people think and look at and be like, oh man, I'm gonna go start an assisted living and take care of seniors. But for me, I was working in the nursing home when I first became an aide, and then working in the ICU. I was like, bro, the patient care, changing people's depends, like all that's second nature to me now. I just didn't know the business side of it. And as I dug into it more, I'm like, well, maybe I just come out here to Arizona where I know there's a ton of people that do it. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up just taking that risk and I bet on myself.
Where are you from?
Missouri originally. So okay. I was born in California, but raised in Missouri most of my life.
Okay.
And so, 2018, flew out here, took everything I had, which wasn't much. I just I took whatever I could from home and packed it into my car and moved out here, and ended up just so happening to find a home that was up for lease in Mesa. That was previously being used as an assisted living home. And the owner was a retired nurse. And so she, knowing that I just graduated nursing school and her being a nurse, she was kind of like, oh, this is perfect. Like, I'd already been running an assisted living home like this, I'll lease it up to you. So I leased it up for $2,800 a month. I knew with 4 bedrooms, I could get it licensed for 5 beds with Arizona Department of Health Services. And that is what started my journey.
So you didn't even own the building. You leased it and then rented out the rooms. Okay.
Yeah. So I, arbitraged the difference. Yeah. And so,
what did that make you roughly on your first?
Once I was like fully stabilized, because I went through this crazy journey of getting scammed because I was trying to hire somebody to help me, like essentially like a consultant. Okay. Yeah. They scammed me and pretty much didn't help me at all. So that ate up all my startup costs. I took a personal loan to start up everything. It was tough. It was tough when I first started, and it was close to $20,000 that they scammed me out of. And that was all at 22 years old and knowing it was a personal loan and crap, like this is not good. So I eventually ran into some people. They helped me out, and I just kept going forward. I was like, I can't give up. Like, I already have this lease, etc.
So you're renting out 5 beds basically, right? And your lease is $2,800, but how much are you getting per bed?
Yeah. So I got my very first client after I got licensed with $3,000 a month. Okay. That was one client. One bed.
All right.
She was super difficult. It was one of the hardest, but I was doing all the work. I was the caregiver. I was my own manager. I was literally wearing multiple hats trying to get this business up and running. And then finally, within 3 to 4 months of getting licensed, I filled up. So I was, bringing in anywhere from 15 to 18K a month. My lease was 2,800. I was doing a lot of the work myself. So, I finally was able to hire a caregiver to come in and help with the caregiving aspect of it. And so about 12 months in, I was finally at a point where I could just manage it, but, have caregivers in place.
Were you able to collect on all 5 beds then at $3,000 a month for each bed?
Yeah, it was on average about 3,000.
Wow. So your lease is 2,800. You're bringing in 15. Obviously, you got the expenses. You got the nurses and stuff.
Utilities. Yeah. So it's non-medical. So I didn't even need to have a nurse. I just had to have a caregiver. I was able to get my own manager certification to run the home. Okay. So I didn't have to pay a manager or anybody to run the home for me. And again, keep in mind, I'm 22. Right. I don't have any obligations. I don't have any kids. So I'm able to just be there all the time and run it and get it all up and.
So how complicated is it, do you think, then to run that business in the beginning? So, and the reason I ask is my wife, years and years ago, this is probably 20 years ago, she worked for, is it Brookdale? I think it was Brookdale.
Yeah, they're big box, yeah.
And she was a regional manager of some sort. So she oversaw, I don't even know, 20 or 30 different buildings in Arizona and New Mexico. Okay. So she traveled a lot. She'd have to go and, spend a couple of days at it and oversee it and make sure everything's going well. And I know for her, she had to be licensed of some sort of license because her license was actually hung at every one of those buildings. So even though she's only going to this building in, say, Flagstaff once a month for a day, if something happens, she's kind of on the hook-ish for it or something. So she was always stressing about that. And I mean, some of the horror stories I heard, at least from Brookdale, on what happened with residents and how, the type of complaints that would come through, or, someone just walks out of the building and gets lost and leaves because they were assisted or memory care. Mm-hmm. So at least all the stuff that she did was memory stuff. So Alzheimer's type things. So, it's a locked facility. You're not supposed to be able to just leave, but, every now and then someone would get out and they're missing a person or, like weird stuff like that, you run into any types of issues like that or like complications or.
I mean, there's, when it comes to like dealing and caring for people in general, there's so many dynamics that you're dealing with, from the resident themselves to third parties that are coming in and providing services, hospice, home health, in-house doctors, etc. And then you got the family dynamic. The family dynamic, I think, goes a lot of people don't look at it and they don't anticipate there to be a family dynamic, but there is. That's probably where I've had majority of my drama is from families. Okay. Because, there's so many personalities, and then they're depending on the resident themselves and how big or small their family is, and how, you got all kinds of crazy stuff that happens between just them, and then they bring that into the home, right? And so you're kind of having to navigate that, and you got family members that don't want other family members to know anything about how they're doing or having access to anything, or, you got them coming out of town and they think they could just stay overnight when that's not allowed. So that, like, there's a lot of boundaries you have to draw right away between you and the families. And
I can definitely see the family causing an issue in my job in wealth management, especially as we get near end of life with the client. Mm-hmm. Families, they turn on each other. It is insane. Yes. Some of the stuff I've seen. I had this client, Elizabeth, she's since passed, a few $1 million. She was a gambler. Okay. So she loved to go to the casino. It was the local. She wasn't even going to Vegas. Yeah. She would just go to the local Indian casino. Every month I had to move $20,000 over from her account into her bank account. So that's her gambling money. $20,000 a month gambling budget. And she'll call me and go, John, I don't understand why my account's not going up. I'm like, you take 20 grand out every month. Like, you're spending more than the account can go up. Right. And then she would get me, randomly, my nephew's coming into town. Can you send me an extra 10 grand? I got to give him the 10 grand so he can go gamble with me, and I'm like, okay. And, when she mentioned, my account's not going up, I'm like, all right, look, we're spending over $20,000 a month. Like, why don't we let's do 10,000 a month, And she's like, oh, but then you don't win as much. I'm like, Elizabeth, you're not winning, And she'd bring me these little tickets, I'm like, look, I won $1,200 or I won $1,800. I'm like, yeah, but then you just kept gambling it and it gave it right back. You didn't come out ahead, And she's, I don't know, 80 something, and she's just like, look, I'm almost 90 years old. She's like, I can't go dancing. I can't ride a horse. I go to the casino, I'm like, okay. So her mind is totally there. Now she has a gambling problem, but there's nothing illegal about a gambling problem, right? I can't physically keep her money from her if just on gambling, right? But near end of life, her family was actually going to the court and going, you know, because they want that money, you know, when she passes, and there's millions of dollars, you know, and they're like, you know, we need to make sure she can't keep spending the money, you know, so I have to like write a letter for the judge and everything. Like, her mind is fine, you know, it's not like she has Alzheimer's. She doesn't understand. It's not that she doesn't understand what she's doing with her money. She has a gambling problem, but again, it's not illegal. It's not, you know, if she had Alzheimer's, I would have needed to step in and go, look, you know, she can't make decisions on her own with this kind of money or whatever, but that just simply wasn't the case. But they were literally trying to get the court to come in and tell, you know, hey, she can't spend any more money because when she dies, they want all the money, you know? And it's like, dude, it's her money. She would spend her whole life getting that money. If she burns through all of it before she dies, that's her money. She can do that, you know? So you had this huge infighting with the family and the court and her, because they're going after the cash, you know? And I would assume you probably see quite a bit of that too.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's the money aspect for sure. You know, they don't, like, everybody's like, I'm on a budget. There's other families that are like, hey, whatever we got to pay, budget's not a factor, right? So I would say, like, the money aspect of it, I would just tell them, hey, here's what it's going to cost, pay it every month, and it is month to month, you know, and if they needed to put in a 30-day notice and move her somewhere else cheaper or move them somewhere else cheaper, then by all means, they have that right. But to your point, I couldn't force people to be there or like tell them, oh, like stay in the home, or, you know, and you would have a lot of the residents, right? They're kind of like, they're all living together, and the ones that are cognitive enough to like understand what's going on and like discussing amongst each other and sharing war stories and family drama. And, you know, it's funny, like you'd have certain families come in and they're like, oh no, here we go, you know, and then by the time they left, dude, there would always be some kind of drama.
So is it the way your facilities is set up? It's basically a single family house that's converted.
Correct. And
so
zone, licensed, everything.
You have separate rooms and like a common living area. And are there other amenities? Do you put other stuff in there for, you know, I don't know, like, I'm just guessing, like an arts and craft, or do you have a pool, or do you have, you know, like.
So like when it's like, I started out very humble. I mean, I had a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. That's what it was, you know, and we would do activities there in the common area space. We would, you know, do all kinds of stuff in the common area space. And then now you got these homes that get converted, which we've done as well, that have the salon in it. They have all these movie theater. Some of them even have, you know, they have all kinds of stuff.
Like resort style living.
Correct. Exactly. And so you definitely have, it's come a long way from just, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, right?
How many facilities are you running right now?
We have 11 right now. So we're starting to, so I originally started with that 5-bed and then ran that 5-bed for 4 years before I decided to actually start scaling.
Okay.
You know, I really wanted to understand the business and really just kind of build the relationships necessary and get my footing and get my foundation. I didn't want to, you know, it took me about 2 years to finally like breathe and realize like, okay, now we're doing something. And then COVID hit. And so navigating COVID was very interesting. And then once kind of COVID chilled out around 21 is when I met my now partner with Valley ALF Ventures. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I do want to get into real estate. In 2019, I did end up doing like a joint venture with the same guy that told me to start an assisted living home. Yeah. And we bought an Airbnb in 2019. I sourced the deal, got everything up and running. And that was like my first introduction to real estate. And I always wanted to be in real estate. And I was running the Airbnb and my assisted living home at the same time. So I had a little bit of shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur, which happens quite often. And I advise, if you do have shiny object syndrome, try to avoid it at all costs. And so when COVID hit in 2020, 2 things happened. Airbnb absolutely shafted all their hosts. Like they allowed everybody to cancel all their reservations, which was in March, which was the hottest month here, or like in the sense of like Airbnb doing the best is March. And so that was like a 10K month for me. And then after like multiple people canceled, I was like making like 4K that month. And I was like, well, shoot, man, I was relying so much on Airbnb. This is a flawed model. And then my assisted living was full, doing really well. That's when I had the epiphany of like, I need to just stick to assisted living and not short-term rentals. So market went crazy in 2020, ended up selling the Airbnb, later that year. Took my money from there. And then in 2021 is when I met my now partner, and we talked. I was looking to possibly franchise the model for like these smaller care homes. And when I met with them, I pitched 2 groups. They all told me, you know what, I think it's because I was young. I want to say that was probably a majority of the reason, because I felt like I had a good understanding and I felt like the model would do really well as a franchise. It was turned down twice. And then when I finally met my partner, I pitched it to him. We discussed it. We kept brainstorming. And then we finally came to the conclusion he was syndicating and raising money as a landlord and buying these and leasing them to operators, pretty much to people like me at that time.
Right.
Shoot, man. I mean, I have all these great relationships here. Let's just start doing that model. Like, I want to get into real estate. I'll handle that side of things of like the leasing and finding the operators and this and that. And you know, do the underwriting. And, you know, we had 2 completely different skill sets that we were both really good at. And so, yeah, that's when we partnered up. And then I took the money from the Airbnb, and that was kind of like my seed money to start going into these other deals with my partner. And we started our syndication firm.
How do you guys run finance now as far as funding for new facility
acquisitions?
Yeah.
So we pretty much would raise capital. We'd syndicate. We started doing that initially. I didn't start raising capital until after our second deal. Our first deal, we had a third partner who was supposed to be our investors relations capital raiser. He ended up bowing out after our second deal, but our second deal is when I had to raise my first 100K. That was nerve wracking. I was like, who do I speak to even raise money? Like, I didn't have those relationships. Like, I didn't expect to do that. Come to find out, I mean, I really enjoyed it. And just came very natural to me to work
How many people did you bring into that syndicate then?
The first deal we did, we raised 150K, which was 3 people, 50K minimum. And then our second deal, we brought in 4 people. I think one was for 100K, and then the other 3 for 50K each.
On the way that you do your syndicate and for an investor, okay? I come in as an investor, I give you 50K. What am I getting for my 50K? Fixed interest rate, and then portion of depreciation on the property. Do you guys plan on refinancing it later and pulling cash out or paying it off? Like, how does that plan work?
Yeah, so typical hold period is on the smaller stuff that we had did, and what we originally started was 3 to 5 year hold period.
Okay.
We do quarterly distributions. You know, we would target anywhere from 10 to 12% annual returns. Because again, these are deals that we could get in at the cost basis, and, you know, with the leases that we'd put in place, we'd be able to target and get those returns. And then like about 18 to 20% IR on the deal. And then, yeah, we would do the cost segregations on each of the deals. So that would flow to our investors as well. So there was the depreciation aspect of it. And then a lot of our deals have now we started this in 2021. So we're now like a lot of these, we've cash out refied a lot of our partners. We've done buyouts.
So when you do the cash out refi, you just plan on buying them out, and then you keep the property and whatever's left over. And
correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we just finalized our second deal that we did. We just did exactly that. We did a cash out refi. All those proceeds went out to buy out our partners, their initial capital plus their return. And then, yeah, we held that property, and that was 2 assisted living homes on Santan and Quick Creek.
Santan and Quick Creek. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you live in the valley?
I live in Goodyear.
Goodyear. Okay. Man, so you live over here.
I used to live in Mesa.
Properties out there. Wow. Okay.
Well, all over. I mean, we got Quinn Creek, Santan, Mesa, Peoria, Phoenix. Yeah, we're kind of all over the valley. Got some stuff down in Tucson as well.
Quinn Creek's my neck of the woods. That's where I live.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. What has been the most challenging thing for you then, from start to now, that you would probably advise somebody else on, like, hey, don't make these mistakes. This is, if there's probably 100 mistakes that you've made, but pick 1 or 2 that were the biggest things that, like, dude, if I didn't do these, I'd be so much further on, or these were just devastating to try to overcome type thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my very first thing I tell people, because I get a lot of people that will reach out and be like, hey, I got this rental, or I got this property that I'm looking to convert to do this business. And then I tell them, not every property is apples to apples. Not everything is going to work, right? Everybody, it's like taking a square peg and putting it into you can't. Not everything is going to work. So I tell people the property itself is going to be a make it or break it moment for you because of a couple reasons. if you go in, if you can't zone that property to begin with, you're not going to be able to license it. And to zone it, you're going to have to do some conversions to it. Sprinkler systems, fire panels, ADA, all this kind of stuff, right? Depending on the city that you're in.
How long does that process take to get it rezoned?
If you can zone it and you go through that process, that could be depending on the conversions that you need to make based on zoning regulations and, fire and building, that could take 3 to 6 months just doing that, right?
So and you're sitting on this property that's not making any money for 3 to 6 months.
Correct. Okay. While you're converting it. Say zoning is available and you can zone it. Okay, now you got to go through the proper to get the certificate of occupancy.
Right. Okay.
And so I tell people that's your make it or break it. If like I was fortunate enough to know that the property I leased was already licensed. So that kind of worked in my favor when I leased it up. It was vacant. Yeah, on that first one. I have people that call me all the time. They're like, dude, I bought this property and it was my intention to, and now I can't because I can't zone it. And like they paid a premium because they thought like the layout and the area was great, whatever, right? And then the area too. People think that just because they get a great deal somewhere and it is available for zoning, the area may not support what you need to charge.
How would I know? I've never started a senior living thing. So if I wanted to buy a property, how would I know if it is, if I could rezone it that way?
Planning and zoning. If you call them and you tell here in the state of Arizona, they're all familiar. They all have regulations for these care homes now.
Okay.
So they'll tell you. So there you have a spacing requirement. Most of them are about 1,200 square feet from each other. So you can't open one across the street from one another. Okay. They used to allow that a couple years, like that was about 10 years ago.
Okay.
They all started changing that because people were opening them literally in cul-de-sac areas and just right next door to each other. And it was just neighbors hated it.
Are you able to get government funding? Because there's government funds, right, that can help on senior living?
Well, not to start it.
No, to help pay for the resident.
To pay for the residents can, yes, as long as the resident financially and physically qualifies. So there's a lot of residents that apply for it. It's called Altex, Arizona Long-Term Care System, is what they would apply for. And they have to physically and financially. So they can't have more than $2,000 in their name or in net worth or assets or anything. And there's ways around it, right? And then they also have to physically meet those requirements. Like they have to have a couple of diagnoses and things that qualify them medically to be able to get onto.
And does that program pay you direct, or does it pay them and then they pay you?
So then there's a second part to that. As the operator and as the owner, we have to obviously get contracted with Altex. And so you have to have general liability insurance in order to qualify, right? To get licensed in general, you don't need general liability insurance, but to become a Medicaid provider, essentially, you have to have general liability. And then on top of that, you got your MCOs within Medicaid.
Okay.
And you have to get contracted with those MCOs.
What's an MCO?
They're essentially the providers that have these contracts with Altex, with the state.
Okay.
And then they obviously keep their portion and then they pay out to the providers that
like a middleman almost.
They're like the middleman, yeah. Right. And so getting contracted with them is going to be the next step. So getting like your Altex provider ID number and then going through that process. And they're not always open to get a contract with. So they look at how many providers they have. As long as they've met their criterias, they'll close the contract and then you have to wait. And so if your area is not available to get contracted as a provider, even if you have residents that are on Altex and have been approved and have that, if they come into your home, you can't bill for anything until you're a provider and contracted. So, but once you get contracted, you can start, the state essentially will pay for the care of the resident.
The zoning type stuff. You were talking about adding a sprinkler and adding whatever those systems are. What would that range cost wise, ballpark? A normal facility.
Yeah, about $30,000 for like a fire sprinkler, fire panel. Sometimes you have to upgrade the meter outside to the street, like a 1-inch meter, right, to allow for the flow of the water and stuff to the system. So it could cost up to about $30,000.
Okay. So on one of those properties, you raised 150, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Was that 150 by itself enough to get up and running? Did you go out and buy the property, or did you lease it and then do the same thing you did on the other property?
So all the stuff we bought was existing.
Okay.
Meaning they were already up and running care homes.
Oh, so you just took over a facility that was already going. Okay.
Yeah.
do you pay a premium for that? Because obviously, if I'm a business owner and my business is cash flowing, it's doing, I want X multiplier.
Correct.
So you are paying that to.
The question I tell people who don't have experience should not go and start something from scratch.
Right.
Because there's so many variables that are going to delay you actually eventually collecting the cash flow or getting to a point of stabilization and actually cash flowing. So I tell people all the time, these existing ones, you can go in, they've already been zoned, they've already been converted. Even if they don't have a high occupancy rate, maybe they only have 1 or 2 residents, but everything else is done, you could do that. That's your value add component of these homes and these businesses. And a lot of these businesses are mom and pops.
What do you do for the marketing then? Obviously being a younger person than I am, right? You're 20 years younger than I am. Okay. Probably way more tech savvy than I am. Is your ability to use social media and, we'll call it AI and all the other things that I would say your generation's better at than my generation,
right?
Help you on the marketing side? And if it is, like, what do you guys do to market those types of properties to bring it in? So you you got a new property, there's only got 1 or 2 residents, but you got 5 beds. Like, how do you find those residents?
Correct. So like any business, right? It's like, who's already got my clientele? These are going to be your hospices, your home healths, your skilled nursing facilities, your rehab centers where they're, a person may have fell and broken their hip, right? They're going to need a place to go stay that has 24/7 care, right? So going to those people first and building those relationships and saying, hey, I got this non-medical facility. It's an assisted living home. We're licensed. We got caregivers. We have whatever, right? They're going to have referrals for you. Then you got placement agents that act as like real estate agents for seniors,
right,
that help families find homes like these to place their loved ones. And they don't take anything from the family. The homes pay a placement fee for those. And those are essentially guaranteed placements. So it's not like guessing, like, oh, if I give you $2,000 for that resident, they may or may not move in. No,
right,
you only pay after they move in.
Gotcha.
So it's guaranteed placement. So that's where most people start when they get into this industry. Now, as far as social media marketing and doing all of that, there's that whole component of it, 100%. Nowadays, it's, even when I started, it wasn't as, I guess, sophisticated or as like where you could hone it down on ads and be very hyper local and then have like, go high level and all these CRMs to be able to collect all that info and follow up. All this stuff wasn't as good as it is now. And so I tell people all the time, you'd be shocked even to this day how many of these places do have either no website or a crappy website. When people do call, there's no one following up with them. There's no one answering to start with, right? Just basic stuff that a lot of these homes aren't even utilizing.
I know a slightly similar space, but slightly different thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about lately is boutique hotels.
Yeah.
Going and buying the mom and pop hotel that doesn't do any marketing and, doesn't know how to really get their product out there, buying it, modernizing it, making it have the visual feel that's more marketable at this point, right?
Yeah.
And then the ability to actually understand marketing and push it out there to get clients into it.
Correct.
So I would assume similar-ish,
Yeah.
Obviously boutique hotels a little bit different, for the end user, but similar idea on the marketing side, maybe.
Correct.
And, at least what you were talking about, the answering the phone and just doing basic business running stuff that some people aren't doing, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, I tell people all the time, I'm like, more and more people, especially like the older generation, are on Facebook. They're on, these other platforms that you can run a lot of ads to really capture and be able to fill your beds in and keep the marketing going.
Facebook is crazy. So I've seen you actually on social media quite a bit, your Instagram and stuff, posting videos, explaining what you do and that sort of thing. And I've been posting videos on Instagram, but it shares with Facebook and it shares with my business Facebook account. And it's funny, I will post something, what I've been doing this month is basically like a 10, 15 second video of just something random, while I was in Italy. It might be, of a old building or a beach or, something, and then just put a few words of, hey, if you added covered calls to your strategy, you could do this and, whatever. And on the Instagram side, it's still not getting a ton of views. I might get 2,000 views, But on the Facebook side, it'll get 150,000 views. It's insane different.
Yeah.
And that's not boosting it or making it an ad or anything. It's literally just most of the traffic for what I'm doing, at least, is coming from Facebook. And I'll get like 2 comments on Instagram and I'll get 100 replies to it on Facebook. Oh, I want to learn more, 100 different times on a video. And I'm like, man, I posted it to Instagram really thinking I'm building this Instagram profile, but in reality, it's all happening on Facebook on the back end. So,
and I tell people, I mean, from a personal branding standpoint, because I started my YouTube channel on this whole topic in 2018, and I've been on social media since then, and at that time I really was just posting more so to document kind of my whole process and my journey. And, I was having fun with it. I wasn't really thinking much of it as far as like, oh, I'm going to build a personal brand and do this whole business aspect to it. I kind of had that, but I was just having fun with it. And now, like, social media, man, I've done so much more business just simply from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook. I get all kinds of different like lead sources and, people reaching out from various platforms and not specifically like one. And, YouTube being my biggest, because that's where I originally started, that just provided more like the professional side of the business, right? A lot of people reaching out from that and knowing me from that. And I like the long format. That's what I originally started with. The short stuff, I was kind of like a little late to it, but like eventually figured it out and, evolving with kind of the whole landscape of social media that's ever changing, I feel like. So you have to kind of I use more social media for tactics, meaning like I look at what other people that are being successful with it, saying like, okay, what are they doing? What's their strategy? How can I incorporate that into what I'm doing? So that's more so what I use social media. I mean, I'm not really on it as much as far as like a consumer per se, just because it's like there's a lot going on in my life, so I don't really have the time to sit there and doom scroll.
Yeah.
And so I tell people like, and I think in my generation at least, I feel like I was fortunate enough to not get caught up in that. And I feel like it's a lot harder now for my generation. They see all this, the glamour and the beauty, like, oh man, everybody's successful. Everybody's got the cool cars. Everybody's got, all the success. And I'm like, I come from very humble beginnings where I had to work really hard. Kind of sucks. I feel like for my generation and even the younger ones trying to start out a business, and they don't have a good understanding of like, hey dude, that's just like social media is an illusion. Like,
you got to be super fake.
Yeah. You got to be fake. Like us being a lot more mature and being around the block a little bit can understand that. But even now, man, I like sometimes like catch myself like, man, look at this 21-year-old. And I'm like, wait, it's like, and it's crazy because everyone looks successful, but the reality is it's not easy by any means. And it's going to take a lot of grit and a lot of hard work. And that's something I also have to remind people too, because they see where I'm at in regards to like from the operation side or like what's currently in my portfolio and whatever. And I'm like, look, that took a lot of hard work. I'm not I didn't waste my 20s. I didn't sit around and.
I feel like that younger generation, we'll call it the 18 to 22-year-olds now, even 25, they see social media. Everybody drives a Lamborghini on social media, right? And they expect, hey, I should be driving a Lamborghini. I'm not successful if I'm not driving a Lamborghini at 22 years old or whatever it is, when all that's BS, right?
Yeah.
And they want all that. They want that lifestyle, but they also want to travel and not work and, spend their day at the beach. And, somehow they don't want to put the time in, but they want the reward of putting all the time in to get. I have a client right now who owns some doctor offices, and they bring these junior doctors in, so, they might be 25, 26-year-old doctor, and she struggles to keep them past 6 months because she's like, they just want every other day off and they want this. And I'm a doctor, I'm like, they're not willing to put any time in and work, but they want big doctor money and they want all these perks. And it's like, dude, you take 10 days off a month, so she keeps them 6-8 months and, they'll leave, that doctor will go, well, I'm go somewhere else,
right.
Because they think grass is green. I can go to another firm. Like, you're not going to go to another office where they're going to just give you 10 or 15 days off and you get to keep making all this money. And like, she feels like that generation, the younger generation just expects that. I'm going to make all the money, but I don't have to do all the work. And a lot of people don't realize, especially as an entrepreneur, you've got to put in a ton of hours in the beginning. I grew up really poor, super, super poor. like double wide trailer poor. Okay. And I look back at how I grew up and where I am now, and I sit in my yard and I look at these sunsets on these mountains, and I'm just like, how the hell did I even get here? You know? And it's taken me a long time to get where I'm at now, because like I said, I'm almost 50. I'm 49 years old. You know, it didn't happen overnight. And in the beginning, I put in a lot of time, but now I don't have to put in a whole lot of time. And it actually, when my wife was, she was a vice president of a commercial, not commercial, but a residential leasing company called Progress for like the last 8 years. Yeah. So she actually helped them scale that company. She was vice president of national sales and something. Yeah. 10,000 houses when she started. When she left, they had 110,000 houses. Okay. So that lady is waking up at 4 a.m. because she's got to be on a call with someone in the Philippines or in India or something. And then she's doing reports and building out systems and all of this stuff. And she's working till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I used to have those hours, and now I don't, you know, and I might wake up at 8 o'clock, and then I'm going to go to the gym at 10, and, you know, I'm going to go to a happy hour maybe tomorrow, or, you know, whatever. And she's just like, she drives her a little bit crazy. You know, she's like, I'm working 15-hour days. You worked 3 hours today, you know, like, and you're where you're at, you know, and like, yes, but it's taken me 16 years to get there. You know, you don't remember all of the stuff I had to do way back then. You see me now, but you forget in the beginning, I didn't make any money, and I worked a gazillion hours, and I wasted a ton of money on stuff that I thought was going to help my business, and it was basically a waste of money, you know. You know, marketing in a way that wasn't useful, or buying something that I didn't need, or, you know, whatever. So a lot of mistakes along the way to get where I am now. So I think that younger generation kind of just thinks I'm going to jump in and I'm automatically get to drive my Lamborghini. When
I first came out here back in 2018, if people do remember, but drop shipping was like a hot thing.
Big,
And he was more like a second cousin, but he was big on drop shipping. He actually started a channel on it, grew like crazy overnight on YouTube, was making that YouTube money. Drop shipping, whatever. He got a Nissan GTR. He was friends with a couple other YouTubers out here that had the, you know, the Lambos. And I remember like I hung out with him, and we went to one of these kids' houses, and I saw the Lambos and GTRs, and I'm thinking, dude, I'm doing senior care. What am I doing wrong? And I was 22. They were like 19. They were like 19, 20. So they're 2-3 years younger than me. Dude, I felt like I was like on the completely wrong track seeing that, dude. And I don't know what clicked in my brain. I'm like, no, like this is fast money for them. And it's here today, gone tomorrow.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
When it's an industry that, I mean, it boomed and busted, right?
Yes.
Where yours, you call it the boring business, but I feel like most of the most successful people I know, it's a boring business, right? But it's something that you're going to need all the time, right? Yes. So in 10 years from now, there's still a need for senior care. In 20 years from now, there's still going to be more old people and people that need care, right? As opposed to, you know, drop shipping or whatever. I mean, people in that industry, how do we become more efficient and use less people and cut cost? And, you know, I mean, it boomed and busted. You know?
And dude, that was like, for me, was like, and that was like a real life experience, right? It wasn't something that was on social media, but I remember thinking, I'm like, man, this is just fast money. It's here today. And they were selling a ton of courses and doing all that. I
think the course thing is still a big thing. There's still a lot of people making
I feel like
money
it's
in courses.
Evolved a lot.
Yeah, but my thing with the courses that I see now is there's 10 million people doing courses, right? Or teaching a course. I think some are very successful. The rest are faking the funk to get you to buy the course, and either the course sucks, it's not really put together well. They probably, you know, don't sell as many as they make it seem like they're actually selling, or, you know, whatever. So, you know, go rent the Lambo so that it looks like you're the big baller so that people will buy your course, or you know, whatever. I feel like that's the majority of the course selling right now. As opposed to someone who's truly made it and actually has put together a well-designed, you step by step, follow these things. Like this is, organized and a good course, what I would consider a good course.
Right. And like I saw behind the curtain with all that. Like I saw that firsthand and I'm like, man, that's not what I want. Like that's not longevity. That's not going to build anything real.
I would also feel like your business is rewarding, right? So you're helping someone that has a true need, as opposed to I sold you a course or, whatever. Like you didn't need the course. You want a Lamborghini because you think I have a Lamborghini type thing, right?
Yeah. Where
senior living or senior care type thing, like we get old, like, dude, I'm hobbling right now. My knee's messed up, and I get out of bed and everything aches on me, and I'm 49. I can only imagine what I'm going to, if I can make it to my 70s and 80s, like my body's broken, right? So I would feel like that's pretty rewarding where it's, someone needs help, they need someone to help make them food or get them changed in the morning or, those basic things of living.
Yeah. Activities of daily living.
Yeah. They need help. Right. So I think it'd be rewarding to go, whatever, how many between the buildings and the amount of residents you have, whatever it is, 50 residents, 100 residents, but like you're helping those people and know that every morning they got dressed because of you and they got to eat a meal because of you and they get to continue on with life in a somewhat normal lifestyle because they have that assist that they may not have had before.
Exactly. It's more of a need than a want. And you're covering a lot of basic needs, housing being one of them, you're providing care as another, companionship. Today's society, how much more everybody wants community more than ever now. Right. Realizing what social media and online and everything has done, right? People want to be part of something and feel a part of something. And it's aside from like care, but there's companionship there. There's, community. There's a lot more that happens that people don't realize. They just say, oh, assisted living, right? And when they hear assisted living, they're thinking like, oh, just this big box. Everybody's just sitting around all, drugged up, morphine and whatever, right? But that's not truly the case. That stigma has certainly gone away, especially with these smaller communities, these homes, that it provides that now more than, the big boxes. They can't compete with that aspect of it. And I have a center too in Mesa. It's 45 beds, but it's built in a way where it does still provide that like smaller home feel community. And there's nothing wrong with big box facilities. I have friends that have beautiful big box facilities. They're not Brookdales or anything, but they're a lot more boutique in a sense. And again, it comes down to how you truly want to run them and operate them and convert them and things of that. Like you can kind of put your own touch and love and aspect to it. And people love that. And especially, residents and seniors really appreciate that, and the families do too. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits. I mean, it's not an easy business by any means, which is great because not every I've had people that have come into the industry and I've seen them. I mean, they're here one year and gone the next because they came in thinking, oh, I'm gonna make all this money, right? And they look at that first before they actually do it from a place of wanting to do it and having a heart for people. They just see the numbers, right? If I'm making $50K a month and I can make $20K after all expenses, whatever, right? That's what they look at. Bottom line, it's just like a spreadsheet to them. And I think when you go with that intention, it's not going to work out very well because that's what you're worried about rather than, oh, are my staff being taken care of? Are they overworked? Are they overburdened? Are they overwhelmed? Are the residents, their care are they getting quality care, et cetera, right? Like you have to look at all these things. It's not just numbers, which I think a lot of people, as investors, I'm an investor myself. I mean, I have to make sure I'm making money and that the business is going to run right. And, there's definitely going to be highs and lows like anything, but this isn't just, and I'm now like more so on the investor side of things more than on the operational side, but I deal with all the operators that I work with and lease to and even help. Right. And so I see all of that. I'm still very in tune with what the industry is doing and how people are operating, what's new, what's not. And yeah, like it's certainly in this industry, I see them all the time too, where it's people come in and...
You have 11 facilities now. Future plans, growth wise or scaling?
So now we're actually offloading some of our smaller stuff. We're getting, we're having people come in and buying them off market from us at full asking. So again, I'm an investor at heart too. So I don't ever like get emotional about things or like get attached to things, even in business or material thing. Like,
are you taking that money though and opening another facility, or are you looking at other lines of business? What are your future plans?
We've been in the healthcare kind of industry for the last 5 years. I mean, I've been in it longer, but as far as like my partner and like our company, we'd been pretty much in the behavioral, the health, like the assisted living, all of that, right? All healthcare. And we bought our first, it still had a healthcare component to it, but it was our first non-anchored retail commercial building that we bought. All of these are considered commercial. So,
right. Okay.
But it was our first one down in Sarasota. It had a Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, okay.
So we had bought into a minority ownership in an adult daycare for seniors.
Okay.
Down there. And through that process, our partner there had renovated this building, 17,000 plus square feet, but it had these other suites, which had like, you know, just these retail tenants in there. Well, he wanted to take that building off his books. So we were like, well, we'll come in. We obviously have the real estate experience, whatever, we'll buy the building. He did a sell lease back. And so through buying that building, we realized like, well, we really like the diversification of multiple tenants and one building, one site. Because up to this point, it was all just single tenant type buildings that we were buying through all these healthcare buildings that we were buying. And so...
Did you do a syndication to buy that one as well?
Yes.
Raise funds?
So we did raise funds for that one as well. And so through buying that building, we're like, well, we really like the non-anchored retail commercial real estate. So we're pretty much taking the funds from the ones that we are selling. And that's kind of our vision moving forward is buying very heavy value add non-anchored retail buildings, commercial real estate. That's kind of... And I love real estate, and like that's my true passion. And so through this whole process, real estate has really been like my true passion.
Right.
I didn't know it at the time when I started my business and everything, but as time has evolved and I've done more deals, and that's kind of really where.
So do you feel like you'll probably get completely out of the senior living or senior care facilities and go mainly big commercial, you know, complexes and that sort of stuff? I mean, that's the end goal. Okay.
That and I don't know how big that will go.
Right.
Because now I have a family. You know, I just had my newborn baby daughter. I'm a girl dad.
Congrats,
now.
I have 3 daughters myself. Yeah. No boys, all daughters. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 2 boys. They're turning 4 and 3 right now, and then got my newborn daughter too. So I'm a young family, you know, growing family, and so for me, I felt like we've done really well in this space and, you know, moving forward. But the next 5 to 10 years, we're really pivoting towards doing that and staying pretty much hyper local to like Phoenix and pretty much Arizona. I mean, we're not.
If someone wanted to partner with you or become, you know, an investor with you, how would they go about doing that? Yeah,
just our website, valleyalfventures.com. We've just recently rebranded that to be vavproperties.com. So they could go there, they can submit, and then they can...
You actually have a link like, hey, if you're interested in partnering with us, you know, click here. And
it says invest with us. You click on that, you put in all your information, how much capital you're looking to invest, you know, and then we'll put you on our investor list. Our investors, even though we've syndicated a lot of deals and we could put together a fund, me and my partner were like, you know, when we do refinance and then buy out, our whole intention is to eventually own
all of it.
All of it, right? It's not just now all of it. It may make sense to offload some stuff and not, you know, pay back our investors and their return and everything, and we move on, take our capital and recycle into something new. But yeah, our intention is to like hold on to these things. And I know other operators in the syndication space, you know, they just want to get their investors' returns. They all exit and they're all happy, right? Which is great. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. We've done that with some of our assets. So. But for us, we kind of want, and so we're utilizing as much as our own capital as possible. We've used other people's money, and you hear that all the time. Right. Use leverage, use other people's money. Don't always use your own capital. Don't get me wrong. We still leverage. We still get our commercial loans. We still utilize banks. We still go through that process, right? We still, you know, we'll bring on debt partners if necessary, if it makes sense. So we're not opposed to doing like bringing on our investors and stuff. And we have a very close group of investors that have been repeat investors of ours. They've done really well with our other deals. And so they're like, hey,
I'll give you more money.
Roll it into the next deal, or keep, here's some more money. And so, like our vision isn't to be like this conglomerate of like a syndication firm or like fund, right? Even though that's very ambitious and stuff, I'm learning more and more in life that like not everything is about money. And the more I'm learning too is like, just because you grow, like I hear of all these founders and people who exit, right? But they have all these investors and whatever. And then what they walk away with is nothing to compare to what they sold for.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, no, that doesn't sound appealing. When we have obviously our investors that we're responsible to, right? Fiduciary and like financially, we have to be responsible to them. And I think when you grow to a certain point, you have all these investors, all these things that you're responsible for. It's not like you can just make a decision that you personally want to make. You have to factor in all these other people that you're responsible for.
Right.
So I think the internet is like glamorizing everybody, go raise capital, go bring investors on, go, all this stuff. It's like when you do it and then you realize it and you talk to people that have done it and they would tell you, no, you know what? I wish I would have just stayed smaller and done it on my own versus bringing all these investors and growing to this massive thing. So there's that too. I mean, I'm just learning a lot in that sense too. Like it's nice having investors and that's where I got started. It's like,
do you have an exit strategy or like a retirement number? Hey, when I get to this net worth, like I'm done, I'm going to call it quits. I'm sitting on a beach and just focus on family and not have to worry about putting any more time in. Just I'm out. Do you have a number in mind? You don't have to tell me what the number is if you do, but do you, or are you like one of those people that just, I'm going to have to work till I die? I have an old business partner, Jon Geib, and he used to own the Geib Bottling Company. His family owned the Geib Bottling Company here in Tempe, actually. Second largest privately owned bottling company in the United States.
Wow.
Think Snapple, Arizona Iced Tea, Fiji Water, Core Water, RC Cola, all these big brands, right? They would bottle and distribute that all over the West Coast. They own the bottling rights to most of those products. So Monster is a perfect example. When they started distributing and bottling for Monster, part of their contract with Monster, this is before Monster became Monster, right? And it was, we own the bottling rights. Like they're our rights. And after years and Monster growing up as big as it was, they were like, we want the rights back. And I'm like, okay, but it's going to cost you X to get those back, So Monster had to spend in the hundreds of millions to get those rights back. Mm-hmm. And then they continued to bottle from there on, right? So anyways, they sold the company 1.5 years ago, something like that, okay? John's maybe 2 years younger than I am. Obviously, big payout for the family or whatever. But he is the type of guy where he's just like, I hear from him all the time. Dude, we should start an HVAC company. Or we should do this. We do that. I'm like, I don't know anything about HVAC. He's like, yeah, we'll figure it out, But he's the type of guy who he could retire. He sits on his ranch outside of town right now, and he has pigs and cows and chickens and turkeys and a lot of land and his family and whatever. And he doesn't have to work, but it drives him crazy that he's not going to work. So he's constantly like, all right, what do I want to get into? But he's smart enough. No, I'm not going to just jump into something and just wing it. Right. But are you kind of like that? Or are you more of the, dude, I could just walk away if I hit this number, and at 40, I'm done? Or are you the type of person being an entrepreneur where you're like, dude, I might have this number and I might be happy with it, but I still got to do something else.
To answer your question in short, I think I'll always be doing something. Now, will I be taking as big risks or be putting as much time into what I'm doing? Probably not, as time goes on. We did a deal down. It's a crazy story, but to make we ended up getting an asset down in Tucson, and it was one of those situations where we had just a bad partnership gone south very quickly with it. We ended up retaining full ownership of that building. It was a lawsuit, all this stuff, right? We had to reposition it, re-tenant it, do a cash out because there was a hard money loan that partner took out against that property. Anyways, we went through this whole process with it. It stressed me out. It was a very stressful process that most people, I think, wouldn't. I mean, again, everybody has crazy stories. I'm sure that's an entrepreneur or whatever. We ended up doing a great cash out refi on that, and it freed up some capital for us, and especially for me at that time. Net worth is one thing, but liquidity is another.
Right.
And it was one of those situations. Yeah, on paper, I looked like I was balling, right? But liquidity wise, we weren't, and it was very stressful for me. And so when we finally got that cash out, got that liquidity, it gave me some breathing room. And at that point, our portfolio was, for the most part, there wasn't anything we were doing for like about 2-3 months. We weren't doing any new deals. We weren't we weren't doing any refis or anything of that sort. And it was 2 months of me being like, what are we going to do next? Like, what's the next thing that we're doing? Right. Like where's that pressure at? It was like this relief that happened that I hadn't felt in a very long time. Cause I was running at 9,000 RPM for so long. And when we were now running at 2,000-3,000 RPM, it felt very bizarre. Like mentally for me, I was kind of like confused. Like, why do I feel like this?
Right. It's something wrong.
Yeah. Like I was like, something's about to happen that I'm like, I can't see around the corner. Like, you know what I mean? And so in those moments, in those 2 months, I realized I was like, I don't think I'd ever want to necessarily retire, quote unquote. And I don't think I'd ever want to, even if I do hit a net worth, a liquidity number, right? You hear this number right now, 5 million, 10 million, or like people's like, if you have that amount of liquidity, you're set for life, right? You throw it in. That's what's going on the internet right now. I don't think there would be an amount of money to make me want to just be like, I'm not going to ever do anything again. I will always have to be doing something.
For me, 5 million, 10 million, that is, I mean, it's a great amount of money.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, but that is not an amount of money where I could, in my opinion, I'm super set for life. Like I could mess up $10 million, or someone could mess up $10 million, right? Yeah. $100 million, a little more than that. Like that's a number where you're set for life, in my opinion, you know, the way I look at it. But, now obviously there are some people that, $1 billion is their number. And some people, if they could make it to 1 million, they're happy too. Right. But 5 to 10 million, I think is a very good number, but I think that you could still mess up and be in trouble with only 5 or 10 million.
In my experience, like, even having 100K in the bank or 1 million in the bank or whatever that number is that people think once I see that in my bank, they're just going to be like, oh, all right, I'm chilling now. What they fail to understand, I mean, dude, I've been dead broke and I've had to go to Cabbage, which was a company that would give like short-term 3 month, 6 month loans, right? Yeah. When I was starting dude, I've been there. I had to sleep in my car and all this crazy stuff. I think people don't realize that, like, okay, just because that money's there, what happens is, like, I had a friend, he like did this fix and flip, and it was his first time ever having like 200K in his bank. And he's like, dude, I don't know what to do with it. And I said, listen to me, dude, do not let it sit there. Go reinvest it, whether that be you starting another business or you getting another fix and flip or whatever. Yeah. Because you will spend that money. You will justify to yourself, well, he just had his baby too. You're going to justify, oh, well, that minivan sounds pretty nice. That'd be very convenient. Let me go spend 50K on that minivan, right? Or, oh, maybe that I want to go buy that, whatever it is, right? A car or some expensive thing. And you slowly that starts dwindling. And people don't realize it, man, but money will start disappearing out of your bank account one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about a dollar amount, like we'll call it 100 or 200 grand, right? People don't realize if they're not careful, that's not that much money. Yeah. A trip here is 10, 20 grand. Boom. Just like that. Exactly. Your $50,000 minivan, you've now spent 70 grand and it was in 2 days, like that can go really quick if you're not careful.
If you're not, And so I tell people, I'm like, no matter what amount is in your bank account, you're better off just having that invested somewhere. Yeah.
Where it's making something.
Where it's making something and it's out of mind or out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Like, for me, that's why I love buying a lot of real estate because, when I wire 50K for a down payment or for my portion of the capital or whatever it is, and it's going towards an asset, hey, it's out of sight, out of mind now. And I know that depending on what that deal is and what our extra strategy it's going to be, that 50K is going to turn into 200K or 300K, or whatever the case may be on the deal. Or, you invest it in, I try to like diversify as much as possible. Right. But real estate is really where a lot of my wealth is held in, more than anything. Everybody's got their strategies, I believe, but, I got kids now. And so I'm trying to set them up properly and, putting in, whole life policies and different things like that for them, and just trying to like make sure that like, hey, I'm setting like some money's going to go one way or another, whether it's invested or spent. And I need to make sure that I'd have a lot more of it invested than spending on it, you know? And obviously we love cars. You got, you know, your McLaren, and I've bought my McLaren. Actually, my wife was the one that pushed me to get it. I have loved supercars since I was young, 12, 13, 14. I always knew I wanted one. It wasn't a matter of if I'd ever get it. It'd be a matter of when. And before my 30th birthday, my wife's like, hey, like, I know you've been putting it off. I know you know, just you bought the house, you've put us first, you know, this and that. I always have. And she goes, I know you keep looking on YouTube at different McLarens, you know, and different cars and which one or whatever. And I was doing all this research, and, you know, I just would save stuff on Car Gurus, and, you know, I'm always like, and finally I show her the car that I ended up getting. I'm like, God, this is such a good deal. I really love it. I love all the options on it, but I don't know. I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm not going to be irresponsible. She goes, no, you should do it. Like, get it. Like, you're about to turn 30. You can at least say you bought it in your 20s, you know, even if you were 29. And so that's what she encouraged me. And that's what it means to have a supportive wife and a spouse. And
I don't think people realize how important that is. I'm on wife number 2. I had my first wife when we started dating when we were 17, 18. Got married, I think, when we were 21, 22, divorced at 25, right?
Yeah.
2 daughters with my previous wife, 1 daughter with my current wife. But I've been with my current wife now 21, 22 years, something like that. Okay. And I would 100% not be where I am at right now if I was not with the wife I have right now. Like, guaranteed not. If I was with my ex-wife, no way.
Forget about it.
No way. Yeah, forget about it. So she has been huge on getting where I'm at. And I think people take advantage of, or not, that's not necessarily the word I'm looking for, but take for granted. They don't realize how important that is. It is, in my opinion, it's huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, she was with me from when I was like dead broke. There were times when we were dating and she was paying for stuff. People don't realize that, but I knew she saw the potential of where we could be, and my ambition and my drive and the sacrifices I was making even then and even now. And so she understood that, even though I wasn't making all this money in the world, and I was trying to get this business up and going. And when I started my investment journey, and like, you know, I kept telling her, I'm like, I know. She's like, are you sure? Like, for me, $10,000 might as well have been $10 million, right? And so when I would make these investments, and, you know, and I just kept telling her, I'm like, trust me, like, I know it's a little bit of a stretch. I understand, like, but again, to our point earlier, I just needed to keep investing because I didn't like seeing that money, because whether it was me or her, whoever, I would have spent that money one way or another. And I just kept telling her, I'm like, just, you know, we like any couple, right? We started in an apartment, right, that I rented for 6 months. And prior to that, I was living at the care home in Mesa for a year and a half. And then even before that, I was living in a car because I was just trying to make ends meet and really save up. And so I was really thinking 5, 10, 15 years. I wasn't thinking in the moment of like, oh, this sucks. I could easily go get an apartment, or I could easily go get my nursing job back, or whatever. And so people need to realize that too, is like delayed gratification. The things that you're doing now, if it means you taking 2 steps back and cutting down and reducing to be able to get, you know, 5 steps ahead, do it. It's going to be well worth it. And I think a lot of people forget that.
We were talking about earlier, you know, what people see on social media isn't reality, you know, and I'm 49. You're doing better than I was at 30, right?
Thank you.
And I am just now to the point where I'm spending more money than I have historically spent on random stuff, right? But it's taken me this long in life to get to this point, you know. I have my youngest daughter, she's 14, and you know, we go on trips all the time. So like we fly overseas, you know, and she's like, are we flying business? Are we flying first? I'm like, you kidding me? Like, I didn't fly first class till I was 40 some odd years old. Like, you're 14. Like, be happy that you're even going on a trip, you know? So just super spoiled, you know? And people, I think, you know, again, they see everything on social media and they think that's the norm. And I feel like the norm takes time to grow and to get that. And you're doing far better than I was at 30. For me, it took me into my 40s to really get to the point where I am now, where I was comfortable and I felt safe and okay, I can go buy a McLaren and I'm not worried about it, or I can splurge for this and I'm not worried about it. I wasn't that way in my 20s and 30s. It took me this long to get where I am now. Wife was a big part of it. It was huge on getting there. But yeah, I think you are in a great position now. I think you're much wiser than you probably realize you are at 30 even, understanding how important family is and being, we'll call it frugal to an extent, hey, I'm not going to go out and buy the McLaren or the Lamborghini too early or, whatever. My wife is very conservative when it comes to money. Yeah. When I went in to buy the McLaren, she's just like, we don't need a McLaren, and she drives a Tesla Model Y, and it's a car, gets her from point A to point B. She doesn't care, Right. She could care less what she drives. We have a nice house. And that has always been the focus, ensure that we have a nice place to live, right? As opposed to a fancy car to drive. The house is more important, but now the house is secured. And then it was, okay, I want to buy this toy. And it took me about 30 days to convince her, like, I want to go do this, and she finally gave me the okay. And I'm like, I'm going to go look at them, and I came back the same day with a car, and she's like, you said you were going to go look. I'm like, well, you said I could buy one. Right. So I bought one, and, she is getting more on board with car stuff now because I think, one, she sees how happy it is for me when I go out and drive it with the group and go on a rally or, whatever. And for her even, she gets to meet with the other wives and we go eat at a restaurant or we go on an overnight trip to, Sedona or wherever wherever the group is going or whatever. I think she's starting to, okay, that's kind of fun, or whatever. But for her, that kind of stuff, she could care less. She's just like,
yeah. No, I would say there to that point for like my wife, she doesn't care much about the car.
Yeah.
She supported it. She knew, and it brought like my boys love it, and I love it. It's something we bond over. It's something we enjoy together between me and my boys. And, my wife's like, oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, people tell her like, oh my goodness, your husband's got it. Right. Like but what it's done a lot for me, at least, is like the connections that I've been able to build 100%. Through it, more so than just the car itself. And so, like, obviously, like the car club that we're part of, like a lot of great guys in there, a lot of great relationships, a lot of just different opportunities. People think that, oh, because you have a supercar, you did something shady to get there or to have it, where in reality, that's not the case at all. Having the car itself has actually allowed people like you and me and other people to actually bond over it, but then also be like, oh, what do you do, by the way? Like, how'd you get here? Or what allowed you to be where you are today?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I take away from the car club is the majority of us in that car club did not grow up with a bunch of money. We've all started businesses for the most part. There's a couple guys that are, still in corporate America and have a corporate job that pays really well. But I would say the majority are some sort of entrepreneur, had a business and built it to get where they're at now. So they're not overly, we'll say, stuck up, you go on these rallies and you stop at a gas station, we got to fill up the cars and all these kids or people come over and people just let them climb in the car. Hey, oh, you've never seen a Lamborghini? Hop on in, you little kid, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can get in this car, like everyone's happy to share it. Everyone's positive. That's the other thing. The positivity in that group is unlike I've seen or experienced anywhere else. Everyone is positive. Like when you're around those guys, you never hear negative anything. It's always positive. How can we help each other? Or what are you doing to improve yourself or family or whatever? It's just positivity, and I've never been surrounded by, it's totally contagious. And you're right. It does open so many doors. And people talk about all the time, you buy a supercar, you open all these doors, and it totally is the case. Because again, you're surrounded by other successful people, like-minded people that have a drive to be successful. But that positivity, it's contagious, and they push you to be better all the time. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen and got out of that club in the last year is just so much positivity out of everyone.
And it's funny because the referrals that I'm able to, like, even myself, right? Like someone, hey, do you have somebody for this? And I ask in the car club, we do it. Great. Here, I got a referral for you. I don't need anything. I don't expect anything. Oh, I'll give you my business too. I'll take my car to get it worked on with you versus someone else. Right. Or like whatever. And it's like, there's that trust factor too, that I know at the end of the day, if I refer or I bring my thing in or whatever it is, I know I'm not going to get gypped. I'm not going to get ripped off. I'm not, and I know whoever I refer is not either. Right. And they're going to be well taken care of. And there's those things too. And then there's like, to your point, I'm inspired by these people who are way ahead of me in life through the things that they've been able to accomplish and be able to do. And I think a thing that I would attribute to a lot of where I'm at today is being able to observe, listen, and be able to make those decisions based on the life that I want by the people that I'm around.
Yeah, it's a great place to get additional advice.
Exactly.
I there's so many things that I want to do, or we'll talk about investing. Like I've never been part of a syndication. But again, in that group, I can go and talk to 10 different people that have participated in a syndication. And hey, what do I look out for? What are the things I should be asking? What are the questions I need to ask? And I can get all that information to make that educated decision. Or whatever this business is, this guy's might have been doing for 20 years, hey, what should I be looking out for? What should I ask? And what mistakes did you make? And I mean, there's so much information and everyone is so willing to just share it, and not expect anything in return. Just, I'll help you out or point you in the right direction, or this is what you need to do. Or
contact this person or whatever it is. Yeah. And it goes, and that saves you so much time, money, and headache that I don't think you could get it anywhere else. Yeah. And an example of it too is like being around people who have truly earned their success versus it being given to them, or they just happen to have like a windfall or something, right? The people that have earned it, you can certainly tell by the way they treat other people who are hungry, who are willing to come up and work for it. I have a couple investors, and one of them specifically, they're great people. And they used to own McDonald's franchises. And I remember I was approached by one of these custom builders in Scottsdale, right? These massive like houses and stuff. They were needing investors. And I had went to one of the meetings and I had lunch with them shortly after that meeting. And I was like, oh, by the way, I met with these people. And they're like, oh, really? Well, let me tell you about those people. Right. And then they told me about their experience with them. And lo and behold, there you go. I had my answer. I didn't need to go do any further due diligence because I already had trusted people, and especially in our club, it's like you have people that you can trust and rely on that are going to give you the honest truth and the facts. And it's amazing what, and it's also about being in the right rooms and in the right, when I first got the car, I went to a couple car meets here, and, there's a couple car clubs that you could easily go join. And lo and behold, I was at one of the car meets and I ended up running into the guy that runs ours, which I didn't know he even ran it. I had followed the club on social, but I hadn't even known who was behind it and stuff. And when they had all pulled up and I met him, like to your point, just down to earth, very natural, didn't force anything, I was like, these are my people. Yeah. This is who I want to be around. I don't want to be around these pretentious other, there's everybody, but again, it's about being around the right people and being surrounded and being in the right rooms. And that's going to help expedite everything else in your life. And it makes you, makes you realize too, what's possible and what can be achieved. And
it definitely goes back to that old saying of, we'll call it your 5 best friends, you're kind of a mix of that.
Show me your friends.
Yeah. Your friend list is going to say how successful you are type thing. And that is it's a perfect example of it. When you surround yourself with success, it's just going to elevate you. I had someone ask me, I don't know, 6 months to a year, since I've had the McLaren, who was kind of like, oh, when you go around all these other guys and they have a nicer car than you, does it make you jealous? I'm like, why would that make me jealous? Good for him. He's got a cool car, and if anything, it's just going to motivate me to do better. Cause if I really want another car, I got to work harder for it, Exactly. Why would I be upset about someone else's success? That doesn't make any sense to me, and you see that mindset of someone, who, hasn't reached necessarily that, level of success in life. The way they look at things is much different than someone that is, more successful, but they're also more positive. Like their mindset is different. The person that has not successful or struggles, a lot of times they're just have a more negative mentality in life in general than this group over here does. And I think that really sets people apart. And I feel like the more positive you are, the more successful you're going to be. I don't know if you know this, but I used to be an Army Ranger. And
that's awesome.
When I went to Ranger School, we started with 281 guys in my class. We graduated 54 of us straight through. And one of the things that I learned in Ranger School was, because the school sucks. I mean, it absolutely sucks. I showed up, I weighed 171 when I got there. I weighed 143 when I graduated. I lost 28 pounds. Very little sleep, very little food. They're just beating you every day. It sucks. Okay. You have to find a way to laugh when things suck, because otherwise your mind is going to beat you up, right? So, and that's what people can't get over, and they end up quitting, right? Because they let their mind get to them. Everyone's body's broke down. Everyone sucks. Like, by the time I graduated that course, I literally couldn't do a push-up. Like, my body was so broke down. If you said, go down and give me 10 push-ups, like, there's no way. I'd have just laid there on the ground. Like, couldn't do 10 push-ups. And everyone's there. So it's not, you're in better shape than I am. We're all broken down so much it doesn't matter. It's your mental toughness and the way you look at things. Yes. And you have to find a way to be positive. Because if I can't go, I'll give you a story really quickly. So in Ranger School, there's 3 phases. You have Fort Benning, which is the first phase. The second phase is in mountains in Dahlonega, Georgia. And third phase is in Florida at Eglin Air Force Base. In mountains, there's, we call it lowers. It's this portion you go down and there's like this rock face, and you do, you learn how to do some rock climbing stuff, rappelling things, rope bridges, different knots, stuff like that. So you're so tired and you're so wore out in this course that if you stop moving, you literally just fall asleep. So if I'm standing here and I just stop for a minute, boom, fall over, fall on your face to sleep, right? If you sit down, you're just going to doze off and go to sleep. Like, you're just so broke down. And we have to get this course on a rope bridge, how to make a rope bridge. And we go to get in these little bleachers. So they're old school, like think football metal bleachers, at high school or whatever. And what we would do is we have these canteens. We're in the summer. I went June, July, August class. And you got to drink you're drinking water all the time, stay hydrated. It's hot in the summer. But that also helps keep you awake because I'm constantly moving. So I take my canteen and I keep sipping it every few seconds because that keeps me from just dozing off. Now, everyone, is going to doze off. So you're looking at your buddy. If he's falling asleep, you give him a little nudge or whatever, because if anyone falls asleep, everyone pays. Okay. So we're going to get in these bleachers, and this guy, Sergeant Valentine, worst Ranger instructor known to man. Everyone that's been to Ranger School in the time period that I went all knows who Sergeant Valentine is. Yeah. Meanest person I've ever dealt with in my life. And he's like, all right, when you get in the bleachers, I don't want to see the canteens. I don't want to see you elbowing each other. Like, you're going to be men. You're going to stay awake. And if you fall asleep, like, it's going to be bad. Okay. We hadn't even all sat down. And he's like, oh, hell no. Someone's already fallen asleep. So as we're loading into the bleachers, the first group of guys have already fallen asleep before everyone else has even sat down. Oh, man. Let alone, we haven't got to the class on how to build a rope bridge. Okay. He's like, everyone out. So we get out of the bleachers, and he's like, hold the bleachers above your head. So we now, as a platoon, they call them companies, but we're really only about 30 or 40 of us left in the class at this point. So I'm in Bravo Company, and we have to hold these bleachers above our heads. And then they proceed to give us a rope bridge class, how to build a rope bridge. It's like an hour-long class, and you're standing there having to hold these bleachers above your heads while they give this class. Okay, and then the class gets over, put the bleachers down, go build a rope bridge. How the fuck do you build a rope bridge? Like, oh, you didn't pay attention to the class. No, try not to drop the bleachers on our head the whole time. Oh, now we're going to be doing push-ups and all these other things. And you're just like, it's so, if you can't laugh at that, like, it's going to break you. Yeah. So I'm in this push-up position for so long. My fingers are swelling. Like, I can't, and you're just like, dude, we held the bleachers, and dude, this is insane. So you're literally like, we're laughing, but oh, are you guys laughing? You're like not taking this serious, and it's like, but if I don't laugh, it's going to break me. So you have to find this way to turn a negative into a positive. And to go back to what we were talking initially, successful people, I think, have a good ability to do that. They can take a negative and stay positive and stay focused. That other people can't necessarily do. So
100%. Dude, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I really appreciate you for coming in.
Of course.
It's been an hour and a half, so I don't want to keep you any longer.
Yeah.
So give me one last thing. Younger self, or not younger self, 18-year-old kid, just graduated high school. Give him 2 pieces of advice on what he should do, whether it's go to school, skip school, start a business. What would you do? Two things.
2 things I would say is, don't think you need to have it all figured out, and don't get distracted.
Yeah.
Find something, and each person will have their journey that they go through in their process. And I think a lot of our society right now is that they have to have it all figured out, or they need to know what they need to be doing with the rest of their lives. And we're always, me personally, and I think you always should be growing. Right. You shouldn't be the same person you are 5 years from now. And I'm definitely not the same person I was 5 years ago. And I definitely don't want to be the same person 5 years from now. I want to be a better, more evolved, more smarter, more resourced, more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think along the way, you're going to just figure it out and enjoy the journey. I think everybody wants that end result, to your point early on. Everybody wants all the results without the work. No, the work is the point. That journey, that's the whole point, not the cars or the house or whatever. That will come. That's just a byproduct of everything else that you're doing. So that's what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for
of course, brother.
coming to help me out.
Of course.
Thanks.